not difficult for you guys. You guys shouldn't struggle. I hope they don't struggle. Please do not struggle, is what I'm saying. Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new, my name is Shelly, and here we just discuss everything to do with books, whether that be book reviews, whether that be scandals in the book world, or just a commentary on everything happening. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. With the second half of Bridgerton season 3 having rolled out and everyone just having so much to say, I thought that today we could spend some time actually discussing something that's becoming more and more prevalent in the book world, which is books being adapted into TV series and movies. So today we're going to have a little deep dive into it, discussing the whole process of a book being picked up for adaptation and being adapted, as well as some popular series that have been picked up to be adapted that we can either look forward to in the future or dread for the future. So let us really dive into it. But before we do that, I do want to say a thank you to everyone, guys. You know, I just love loving on you guys. I hit 5,000 subscribers not too long ago, and it was such a surreal moment for me because thinking back to last year where I was inconsistent and thought of giving up several times, gave up for a minute, and then the way that this year has picked up and all the fun I've had, it's obviously been a lot as well, which is why I took a break last week, but it also has been so rewarding and I love it. All the conversations that we have in the comments, I'm loving it so much, and I absolutely love you guys. And to celebrate hitting 5K, I decided to really start in on channel memberships to have a bit more perks for, you know, the people who love me a bit more. So do be sure to check out my channel memberships if you want to join. You know, we have a few things in store, but I'm really excited for that, just to have a bit more fun with you guys. But all that aside, let's get back to the topic at hand, okay, which is the book adaptations that we've been seeing like coming in quite a lot in recent years. Before, they would be, you know, one every few years, and you know, those ones would blow. So first and foremost, we have to discuss why are books being adapted more and more, because back in the day they were few and far between. Like, it was one in what, a million books that got adapted, and sure, they'd be great sometimes. But nowadays you're hearing like, what, 5 books being picked up every other month for adaptation, and it's a bit wild. So why exactly is there a rise in books being adapted? Well, first and foremost, with the increase in streaming platforms, you know, we have Netflix, we have Amazon Prime, we have Hulu. There is now a need, or a want, I would say, a desire for new and engaging stories. And so, yes, we have a lot of these books and movies. We have a few of them being adapted to the big screen, but the majority of them are actually being adapted by these streaming services who want to give their audiences what they're demanding, which is a new, fresh story, like every other month. See, books provide ready-made plots with established audiences, which make them a really safe bet for all of these streaming services. Like, with every project they go into, like, there is some risk, but with a book, no, like, we don't have to, you know, test to see if this is something that an audience will want. No, there has been a book that's been successful, so we know that there's an audience. We know that there is demand for it. So they can actually feel secure in where their investment is going. So I can understand in that sense, in terms of like a business decision, it is a very smart business decision that you can kind of almost guarantee to, you know, make a good return on your investment. Like, books come with a ready-made fan base, you know, so you already know that there's someone there who's going to be watching your show. And the thing is, with books, you know, they involve very detailed storytelling, and that translates, or is meant to translate very well, you know, into a visual output. And so when these studios are wanting to give their audiences something, a book is probably their safest bet. And like, from a financial standpoint, it is one of their best bets for actually like making a good amount of money. So you know what, I do not blame the studios for going in this direction, finding, somewhere that already has a ready-made plot with people who are ready to watch. Like with some of the new shows, it's more of a case of it's a hit or miss. Like some shows are made and they don't get much of an audience, and so they get canceled very early because what can they do? We tried it, we tested it, and you didn't pull in. But with something where you already know there are people who want it, then you're just like, we know you guys love this book, so we know you're going to come and watch this show. And it's happened time and time again. Like it has. The Hunger Games was a sensation, when it got released in the books. And when it became a film, oh my goodness, it blew like nobody's business. Same with Twilight, when you have a popular franchise, it's not a surprise when it becomes adapted, because these studios are really just trying to be business savvy, and they're just trying to be smart and make a good investment. And you know what? Fair play to them. I get it. Now, we're going to take a look into the adaptation process before we actually have a look at some of the shows that are, being picked up for adaptation that haven't been released yet. I know we have quite a few that have been released, but then there are quite a few that we know we are meant to look forward to. And I won't go too deep into all of them, but I'm just going to, give a bit of details on who was picking it up, who was meant to be directing it from what we know, and where they are in terms of like their progress in the adaptation, all of that. But let's actually first look into the process of a book going from book to your screen, either the big screen or your screen at home. Now, first, it starts with optioning the rights, where a studio pays either the author, if it's an independent author, or the publisher, if it's traditionally published, or even through some different form of publishing. It pays them for the exclusive right to produce either the TV series or the film for that book. And once they have it, they have it. And that has actually caused a bit of problems, because once a studio has the exclusive rights, if the studio then decides they're not going to go through with it, they still have the rights. And so if another studio decided, oh, we see promise and we would like to, because your other studio didn't want to do it, there becomes a bunch of issues, because we still have the rights. If they don't want to sell it to them, then that book is basically in lockdown and can never actually be made into like a film or a TV series, depending on what the rights they optioned off. So that one can get a bit dangerous, 100%, because you option off the right and you're just like, oh, you know what? They're definitely going to make it. And if something happens and they don't, then that dream that you had of your book coming onto the screen might be squashed if they're not reasonable enough to sell the rights back to someone who does still see promise in it. So yeah, I think we've heard quite a few stories about books that were meant to be adapted and never were. But then we heard that they were picked up, but we never heard anything. Yeah, it happens, and I feel for the authors who that happens to. Publishers just want to make money. So I'm not feeling too much for you, but for the authors, I feel it. I do feel it for them. Next, after all that has happened, is the script development. So screenwriters get to work on a screenplay to really just adapt the book into a visual format, so that it can actually fit the medium and the time constraints and all of that. Now, see, the issue with this is that this can involve, condensing a lot of things in the book, including the storylines, changing up the storylines as well, and even adding visual elements that weren't in the book previously. And this is where a lot of the debacle happens. Because once you start condensing content and altering storylines and characters and changing things up, this is where the fans who were now dedicated and committed to watching this show, the fans who were going to come and watch, and that's why you adapted it from book to TV show, you're not going to be upsetting them, And this is where us fans are hurt, because they take stories that we have fallen in love with and they change it. And I understand that, once again, the whole point of, the screenwriting process is to translate this book into a visual medium so that it can actually fit. Some things in books don't translate well into film, especially because like technology and this, especially when it comes to a fantasy book, some things just aren't easy to translate from your book to the big screen, small screen, it doesn't matter. It just isn't easy to translate. All the magical elements and systems and that everything that you imagined in that book might not be possible in, in visual format. I understand that. And so I can understand that there are a bit of changes to how things are presented. But then when content is now being condensed, you have the readers going, oh my goodness, they missed out a very, very important part, you know? And then characters being changed as well, whether that be, you know, who they are or just their personalities, or even like just different parts of the character in the storyline. You're just like, that didn't happen like that. This happened a lot for the very first Hunger Games movie. I remember when the first movie came out, yes, it blew up, but there was so much pushback because there was quite a few things that were changed. But I understand that you cannot add every single detail. Like, you cannot, in the way that they were explaining like the rules to the games and the history with all the Hunger Games prior, you couldn't have put all of that in the movie in a way that it actually translated well in that visual, you know, medium. And so I understood that. Doesn't mean that we weren't upset as fans. But this is where a lot of the trouble comes in with actually, you know, making a book into a movie or a TV show. All the changes that happens when it comes to screenwriting. But that is stage 2. Finally, there is casting and production. Obviously, you know, they cast their characters and production gets moving into making this whole new world, or making this beautiful world into kind of a reality for us. And that can come with its own trouble, but that, I feel like, after everything is said and done, there's nothing to be done at this stage. But casting in itself can also be so wrong, because a lot of books, and most books, if not all books, like, are very, very descriptive in terms of like the characters who are meant to, you know, the people who are playing the characters or whatnot. Like, so they tell us their skin tone, their eye color, their hair texture. They tell us everything about them. They even tell us the type of clothes that they're used to wearing. And so when you see someone in the movie or the TV show and you're just like, who is that meant to be? Because I know it's not who I think it is. And so once again, it opens up the door for more disappointment and more complaints. Now, I remember this happened when I was in high school and when 50 Shades of Grey came out. Like, we're not going to talk about the book quality itself. Let's just talk about the book and the adaptation. I remember when it came out and Anna's character was being destroyed because people were just like, who is this meant to be? This is not who we pictured from the book. People were out of sorts. People were just like, nah, do it over. This is not her. Stop it. People were upset. And it was very, very hilarious. But yeah, this happens all the time. But you can't always get, you know, the perfect casting, mostly because I do understand this. It is the person who can best play the role. I do understand that. But there is some wiggle room in that, because there's some things that you cannot change in a book. For example, if this character is meant to be an indigenous character, please, if I see one white girl in that, I'm finna fight. I'm finna fight. If you tell me that this girl is black with luscious locks and you pull up with one white girl, again, I'm a fight. And even in that sense, you know, where there is like colorism at play, where we have a very, very beautiful dark skin in the book, and then we have a very, very light skinned, and not to say that they can't play the role well, but when we know that there's colorism at play, it throws in so much politics, and it really just takes away from what we're meant to be focusing on, which is the book has been adapted and we want to see the storyline at play. So casting in itself can even bring up way more issues than it should. But that aside, let us actually get into a few very, very popular books and series that have been picked up for adaptation and where they are, who's adapting them, Now, because I don't have all of this like just memorized, I will be referring to my computer. So please, guys, when I'm not looking at you, you guys know what I'm doing. I'm reading. So I'm gonna pull it up right now, and we're going to see. I will have a few comments, obviously, for, you know, the adaptations, because a lot of the books that are being adapted, I've either started, finished, heard of, or it's on my TBR. So one or the other. So let's get into it. So first on the list, we have Akotar, by SJM. Akotar is meant to be adapted into a TV series, and with all the detail in that, I definitely agree, because one other thing that can be debated is the medium that it's translated to. So some books should be TV series that are made into movies. Some books should be movies that are made into TV series. You really need to choose the right medium to translate it to, and that's not always the case. So with the detail in ACOTAR and the fact that it is an incomplete series, TV series was definitely the best bet for it. Now, the novel is being adapted on Hulu, with SJM collaborating on the screenplay alongside Ron D. Moore, who is known for his role as a writer and producer in the Outlander adaptation. Now, we all know Outlander is very, very famous, so we know that that definitely helps this adaptation, because people will go crazy because everyone's going to be like, okay, he's known for doing things well. We can probably have hope. Maybe. Now, with ACOTAR, there's quite a lot of like magical elements and magical beasts and transformations and just a lot in terms of like visuals. So I won't even lie, I haven't seen many adaptations on Hulu because I don't have Hulu. Sorry about it. So I don't know in terms of like the quality, will they be able to really, really do it well? So I can't say much, but I know Outlander is good. So, you know, that's where the hope can come from. I will probably tune in to judge. I'm so sorry. With a lot of things, I tune in to judge, regardless of how I feel about the books, because I'm just like, I need to see if you did it well so I can really critique it in the best of ways. And so this is going to be a very, very fun journey for me. And this has been a really, really interesting book adaptation, because for a minute, we heard that the adaptation fell through and that it wasn't going through anymore. But then earlier this year, just a couple of months ago, there were some reports that kind of negated that early report that it was canceled, that, you know, kind of showed that it is still going on. So not too sure about that, but we really will just have to keep an eye on it. Now, the next is the Folk of the Air series by Holly Black. Now, this series, I'm actually really excited for it, simply because this was, I think, the series that really hooked me in terms of like getting into YA fantasy, because before I was definitely more of like a YA dystopian girly, and even like YA dystopian heading into thriller territory, or just like give me good YA and I'm in it to win it. But then I finally decided, I remember, oh, I really want to get into like, you know, these popular books people are hyping up, let me see if they're really good. And I read Folk of the Air and I really, really loved it. And I didn't even love it for a lot of reasons. People love it. People love it for the romance, and that's great. I loved it because it's a political fantasy, and I love the politics in this. I was just like, I'm loving all the scheming. I love that. So yeah, the romance is cute, and I actually like them as a couple. Some parts of it, because their romance is problematic in some ways, but that aside, I am actually excited to see this be adapted. So I will definitely be tuning in, because this is gonna be fun if they do it well. So with the Folk of the Air series, it's Universal Pictures who secured the film rights, and this is very, very kind of iffy, because Michael DeLuca is the producer, and he was known for the 50 Shades of Grey movies. But we all know that the adaptation, it was received half and half, so you really never know. But the thing that's actually problematic about this is that the first movie was announced, as in like, oh, it's going to be made into a movie, in 2017. We are in 2024, and so this is another case of, is it getting shelved or is it going through? Like, what's going on? I know it's a fantasy book, but what fantasy is taking this long? I mean, I know Avatar took a lot, you know, to produce, and we're talking about the Blue Aliens, not The Last Airbender. But the visuals in that, we understood why it took like 10 years. We know why the second movie took 10 years. This is the first movie of a fantasy book, in a YA fantasy book at that doesn't have, and I'll definitely say doesn't have as many magical elements as some fantasy. So I honestly do not believe it should take so much time to be produced. So what's going on there? Like, it's actually worrying me, because I'm hyped for this. Like I said, I'm excited to watch it be adapted. So they have to figure it out. They have to figure out what's going on. Let's not play games. Now, the next series that's meant to be adapted is the Red Queen series by Victoria Aveyard. Now, this was another, like, I think this was when I very, very first started, like, reading, like, at all. Reading, like, genuinely, like, committed myself into being a reader. That was one of the first books I read, along with, like, the selection. But this is being adapted by NBC Universal streamer Peacock, and they're set to develop this into a series, which, like I said, some books are better as series, and I agree that this one is one of the ones that are better adapted as a series. Now, it's being executive produced by Elizabeth Banks and Max Handelman, who also produced Pitch Perfect, and it was first announced in 2021. Pitch Perfect is kind of like cult I feel like in the future it'll be referred to as a cult classic. I really do. It kind of has like that vibe. And even though people don't talk about it as much, I'm just like, I can see it having that like cult classic vibe in the future. So I have a bit of hope for this, you know? And once again, while there are magical elements in Red Queen, it isn't like high fantasy. So I don't think, you know, I'm not too worried about how they adapt everything. Yes, it has some moments where I'm just like, the visual should bang, but I'm not too worried. I'm just like, this is not difficult for you guys. You guys shouldn't struggle. I hope they don't struggle. Please do not struggle, is what I'm saying. Um, and yeah, I really did enjoy this book because I enjoyed the villain in this series. The villain in this series, I think, was one of the better ones in like YA fantasy. Like that, you know, when I was, you know, really, really starting out. I was just like, it was so well thought out and well written and very, very compelling. So I want to see how they do this and how they adapt it in the casting. I'm very, very committed all the way, 100%. Now, this next one is one that I there's 200% of me invested in this. Like they have to see this through. Like they have to see this through, and I will write if they don't. And that is Legendborn by Tracy Dion. Guys, on this channel, I know you've heard me at least once talk about how Legendborn is it. It's it. You know how some books are overhyped? I don't believe that qualifies. You know, Legendborn is not in that category. Legendborn, the hype that it receives, it deserves, you know? It is so amazing. Like, I'm just like, wow. And Legendborn is one of those books, like I said, the casting can make or break them because we will fight. It is made very, very clear in the book that Brie is a chocolate, like beautiful brown chocolate girl with beautiful afro locks, like 100%. Now, not to say that, you know, a light-skinned girl cannot play this character, but they very much emphasize her dark skin. And considering the colorism in Hollywood, I'm not having it. You guys, you know what? I love so many of the actors that we have, but Amanda, I'm not trying to see you. You do not have the correct skin tone. I love you and the things that you've done. I'm not trying to see you. I'm not trying to see it. Please, like, so many times you expect something, and I want to receive it, and I want to receive it well. Legendborn is in that category, okay? Let's actually get to the details. Felicia D. Henderson, known for writing The Punisher and Gossip Girl, she's currently in the process of adapting Legendborn. Now, listen, Gossip Girl is another one of those things that have become a cult classic. Or if it's not at that status yet, it's going to be in the future, okay? And The Punisher was insane. So, as in, like, good. So I have hopes. I have hopes. Now, Legendborn, I would say I think it can be adapted so well because Legendborn is urban fantasy. So I feel like they can do so much with this. Like we don't have to take us to some, you know, very, very insanely fantastical universe in terms of like the setting. No. We are in day-to-day, real day, current day setting, so you guys can do well. Now later on, you know, a bit of the magic starts to be more a bit intense, but like I said, I think they can adapt it very, very well, and I'm expecting nothing less. I'm not playing games with this. Of all the things I can play around with, everything in the list before, like I said, there are a few that, you know, and because I've read all the others before, yes, you know, I do want to see how they turn out, you know, whether for good or for bad. I just want to see how they turn out. But Legendborn, I want to see it turn out well. Like I'm not even watching it to critique, I'm watching it for enjoyment. Like the amount of emotions that went into Legendborn, and that's still going to Legendborn because the series is incomplete, the amount of energy that is going into it, I can't afford, like my heart can't afford for it to flop at all. So please, I just need it to be done well. Like I desperately need, like not even desired, I desperately need it to be done well. Now the next on the list is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. Now Amazon Studios is currently in the process of developing a Ninth House TV show. See, Bardugo is taking on the role of both screenwriter and executive producer for the project, and the show is also being produced by Puya Shabazian, who is known for the Divergent trilogy, Love, Simon, and Shadow and Bone. See, this is where things get a bit... Because obviously you know, I don't know if you would have known, but Leigh Bardugo also wrote the Shadow and Bone trilogy, and the Six of Crows duology, which includes, and all of this entire thing is in the Grishaverse, which also includes the King of Scars duology. Like her Grishaverse spans like over 10 books. They're amazing. I've read, I think, almost every single one. I think I only need to read like one more and then I'll complete read everything. The Ninth House is not part of the Christophers. It's completely set apart, and it's, I think, one of the only books from Leigh Bardugo that I've not read, but it's been on my list for ages, and I'm definitely going to read it before the show comes out. The only thing I would say is that Shadow and Bone got cancelled, and it broke my heart because though I had so many qualms about the adaptation because they changed so much, guys, like I said, they changed a lot to adapt it to the screen. I had so many qualms, but the thing I loved about it is that the parts of the show which involved the crows, they did so well. The casting was beyond brilliant. The Shadow and Bone part, I had so many comments, and we're not gonna get into this today, but I'm happy that it's not Netflix producing this, because Netflix, as we all know, has a bad habit of producing good shows. The shows get good ratings and it cancels it out of the blue. I don't know what's going on with them. I feel like they're just stretching themselves, and then when they realize they can't, they just decide to rip our hearts out because they don't care. But because it's not Netflix producing it, I have more hope for it. I'm upset that this is the one that Netflix isn't producing, because I wanted a Crows show, but that's a story for another day again. But as I've not read Ninth House, the first or the second book yet, I can't give you too much details. I don't really know what the book is about. I know it's about like a secret society in a school, something or other. But I don't know much about it because I haven't read it, so I can't give you my hype level or like where I am in terms of commitment for it. But because she's an author who I've read her writing and I've loved her writing, I will support it, because I'm just like, you've not disappointed me so far, so I'm gonna go with you anyway. I'm gonna stick with you and support you in this way and hope for the best. But yeah, I will be watching it, but I will definitely read the book before I do so I will definitely look out for that. Now, the next book on the list that's being adapted is a book that I'm still so ashamed to say I haven't read yet. It's on my list, guys. It's one of the books that I said I have to read or discard. If I don't read it by the end of the year, I have to get rid of the book itself. And that is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. Yeah, guys, I still haven't read it. Please do not be disappointed in me. I've been suffering through a horrendous slump this year, but it's definitely on my list. I'm gonna get to it. But The Poppy War, the reception from this, from the people who I respect in terms of like their reviews, and they've never led me astray, every single one of them have read it, and every single one of them have been in love. Like, they've had their heart torn out, which is, I think, one of the parts that is scaring me from, picking it up. But I've heard nothing but like great news from The Poppy War, so I definitely have to read it before it gets adapted. But it is meant to be adapted, so if you have read it, then yeah, that's meant to be adapted. Starlight Media, which is known for backing films like Crazy Rich Asians and Midway, they secured the rights to the novel. So I don't know about you, but Crazy Rich Asians to this day is still one of my favorite movies. Like, that movie slapped. And that movie, I definitely have it on my list to read the books, because I just thought it was a fun movie, and then I found out, no, it's based on a series, another book that was made into a film. Look at that. And I know that Crazy Rich Asians was one of the best movies when it came out. Like, people were blown away, and we all, just like me, we all loved it. Like, it was amazing. So because of that, I have hope, because if you can, like, that movie was absolutely amazing. So if you can make that, then yes, I'm sure Poppy War, it's fantasy, so a bit more difficulty when, doing all of that, but I have faith that they can do it. I mean, I'm saying this when I haven't even read the book, but sue me. But yeah, so for all of you Poppy War lovers, you can, hold your heads high, and know that your book has been picked up for adaptation, and hopefully I can join you guys in the fandom soon. Now, the next book, I am so excited. I haven't finished the series for this, but I am gonna get to finishing it, and so I'm really, really excited for the actual show. Well, yeah, the actual series itself. So the book is The Atlas Six by Olivia Blake. Now, guys, you guys know this book as a book that took Book Talk by storm, and probably, I think, is one of the books, or is the book that really started the Book Talk effect, as in, she was, independently published, very, very small author. And then Book Talk made this book blow to the point that she became traditionally published, and all of her books, got picked up and are being reprinted now. And like, her life has changed. She said it herself. And so super excited for this. Amazon Prime, they secured the rights to the book, and this is very interesting because I watch quite a few shows on Amazon Prime, and Amazon Prime has some bangers. So Amazon is developing the show with Bright Star, which is a London-based production company founded by Tanya Shekachian. Please forgive my pronunciation. Who produced The Crown, and John Woodward, who produced Cold War. Now, I haven't watched Cold War, but I know that The Crown slaps. So, I'm definitely committed into this one. Because The Crown? For all the people who have watched The Crown, you know what I'm on about. Like, The Crown, that show grips you from beginning to end. Like, the production value of that show, amazing. So this one I have hope for. But just because I know that the book is good, I have hope for it. Like, easy as. Because it's one of those that you just like, I feel like a few people might judge it at the beginning. Slow start books, but you will have a lot of fun if you actually commit to it. I feel like Atlas 6, Ninth House, I haven't read the Ninth House, but I feel like Ninth House might have the same vibe as Atlas 6. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do feel like it. But yeah, this is another book I'm definitely having hope for. Next is From Blood and Ash by Jennifer Armentrout. Now, this one is very like interesting to me because I remember when I first started reading and really first started getting to fantasy, this is one of the books that was like everywhere and everyone was talking about it. But I heard such conflicting reviews, and then the negative reviews beat it out. And so while I do still want to read it, because I never really like other people's reviews kind of like swaying me, I'm not too like hyped up for it, just because I'm just like, why do people have such chaotic reviews of this book? But yeah, so Amazon Studios is the one in process of developing it's developing the entire series into a television series, and Anne Cofield Saunders, who is known for The Boys in Star Trek Discovery, is writing the screenplay and serving as showrunner for the project. Now, I love The Boys and I love Star Trek Discovery. If you know me, you know that I am a nerd. I put it in my intro video. Like, I'm a full nerd. And so I'm a Trekkie and I'm part of the Rebel Alliance. I never chose one. I don't believe in choosing. I think that's dumb. Like, we can choose all. So Star Trek Discovery I definitely enjoyed, and I love The Boys. It's gory as heck, but I love it so much. And so them being a showrunner, I can tell you guys that you guys probably have, promise for it, but you better, like, The Boys is based off a comic book, and I can tell you from knowing the comic book, a lot has changed. So you can probably know that a lot will change From Blood and Ash. So if you've read this book and you love it and it's kind of like your baby, maybe hold your baby tight, because your baby's going to get changed. I'm going to tell you this now, 100%, I know it's going to change. Like, it just is. The Boys has changed so much from the comics, and while the changes have been good in some aspects, some of them I am a bit like, I don't really like this change. So that might be you with From Blood and Ash. So good luck to you for that. But those are all the shows I know of that are, well, all the books I know of that are being adapted either into TV series or movies. And now that we've kind of gone through all of it, like, I'm sure that there are way more, because there are quite a few books here and there, but I'm a fantasy reader, so these are the fantasy books that I'm aware of, and I'm sure that there are more fantasy books as well, but those are the ones that I know are really popping, and, are really kind of like popular in terms of, like, the book is popular, and so the adaptation is most likely to be popular, at least for the first season. So, and for the movie, first movie. But yeah. Now, with book adaptations, there are quite a few challenges, and I've glazed over them before, but I just kind of want to list them out. First and foremost, the content condensing. We've seen this quite a few times, and we've complained quite a few times. Condensing the content takes away from the story. It doesn't matter, like, what you take out, you're taking some bits away from the story, and that definitely does hurt it a bit. You can keep a strong story, that is true, if you are really nitpicky about what parts you are condensing, but it does take away from, like, the it factor that made that book popular in the first place. Case in point, for the Hunger Games, in the movie, the little Mockingjay pin that she gets, she got it from the black marketplace in the movie, but in the book there's so much more sentiment behind that little Mockingjay pin. And so I remember it was a huge point of discussion when the first movie came out, because we're just like, okay, this is a small detail that doesn't really change the trajectory of the book, but it removes some of the emotion that went into the pen in the first place. So condensing content, while I understand is necessary 100%, it definitely takes away from, you know, what made the book special in the first place. So I definitely believe that that's one of the main dangers when it comes to like adapting a book. And it's one of the things that really hurts fans 100%. We're just like, we are hurt a lot of the time when this happens, because yeah, we understand, but we don't at the same time. Like, you could have done better to fix it. This is why I'm all for TV series a lot of the time, because with TV series, I believe that there is more room to include everything that we want to be included. And so I'm just like, okay, you have like what, 8 episodes, 10 episodes, 12, 24. You have time, okay? You have time to really just make this into what it needs to be, and you don't need to take out everything, okay? Now, the next thing, it basically kind of relates, and it's kind of the same point, but it's not. But staying true to the book itself, like, this isn't just about like the condensing content part. It's more about staying true to the message of the book itself, staying true to the emotion that went into it, staying true to the overall theme of the book. Sometimes that faithfulness, it gets left it gets left behind, and it gets lost in translation. Now, this I definitely see in like a lot of recent adaptations, and I will say this 100% as someone who definitely read, that Bridgerton book for Bridgerton season 3. I haven't read the entire series yet, but I made sure I read Penelope and Colin's book, and so many things were changed, but they kind of remained mainly faithful to a bit of Penelope's character, while they kind of disregarded so much of Colin's. And considering it's meant to be about the Bridgertons, the fact that it was like, it didn't remain faithful to his character and his development and his struggles and all that he went through, I thought that that's why season 3 flopped for me. I felt like this is not a faithful adaptation. It's not that it didn't give us a good season, but I'm just like, if you wanted to make a show about love and this and that, go and make a separate show. But changing key parts of people's stories and removing from the actual heart of what is meant to be portrayed, it kind of just deads it for me. I'm just like, it deaded it for me. You're now at this point, I feel like the showrunner's own emotions is taking over what the actual point of the book was, and I feel like that is completely horrendous. So I feel like a lot of books, they definitely have issues with remaining faithful to themselves when they become a TV series or a movie. And so with a lot of these shows, or movies, I'm really kind of just worried about them remaining faithful to who they are in the book, or the author's vision when they first wrote the book. I'm just like, because you're now, all of us who have these issues, you're now erasing it to deal with your own issues, or something that you see is more important. So what about us? So it's definitely going to be interesting seeing all these books get adapted. But I am hopeful, and I really do hope that, they are successful. I mean, some of them I couldn't really care too much about, but some of them do have my heart. So yeah, I do hope that they are successful, because we know of the unsuccessful ones. We know that the original Percy Jackson was unsuccessful because they strayed so much from the books that the fans were just not having it, and so it didn't get far. 2 movies, and that was it. But the TV series is way more faithful to the book. And if you see the reviews now, you can say that, okay, clearly remaining faithful got us somewhere far. And then you have, obviously, Harry Potter. That is one of the most like popular book to film adaptations ever. Same with Lord of the Rings, one of the most popular book adaptations ever. And they stayed faithful to the books mostly. Even A Song of Ice and Fire, which was made into Game of Thrones, they definitely started to switch up after season 4. And I think that's kind of where they saw a lot of more, comments, negative comments being made. Because after season 4, you could tell that something was different. And that's because the books weren't complete. So I get it. But even for the complete books, they were straying from the original source material. And so the fans were getting upset. And even the fans who hadn't read the books, knew that something was off. It just didn't seem like it came from something that was complete. So it was problematic. But let's not forget, book adaptations can be good for so many reasons. Not just that, like, it helps the fans kind of see, their favorite characters on the screen, but it helps new book sales to be generated. Like, because when a movie or a TV show comes out and people hear that it was based on a book, a lot of times people are just like, oh, the trailer looks cool, or the premise sounds good, but I didn't know about this book. Let me go and check it out before the show comes out. It happens all the time. Like, Bridgerton sales went up, like, so it went so high because of that first season. People were just like, no, now I need to read all of this story because this was so good. And so it generates more sales, which is so great for, one, the literature world in general, but two, for, that publisher and that author. We're all about supporting authors, and it gives the authors way more visibility. Did I know who Julia Quinn was before the Bridgerton series? I did not. I didn't. But look where she is now. Like, she is a household name, like, on, even for the people who don't read, because they know about Netflix and they know about Bridgerton. So it can really, really help with authors' visibilities and gaining you people who love them, and, like, just helping their careers to even further on. And with the extra financial boost that, comes from TV shows and movies, it can also help to put more money in their pockets. Like, we actually need to have a conversation about the literature industry and, like, how authors get paid. Like, but that's a story for another day, because that is a very, very long conversation. But in that sense, like, there is a whole new stream of income for them. Yes, for their publishers as well, but also for them. And so we can know that this is not just, entertaining us, but it's also helping them. And so it really is kind of just an all around, sometimes a good thing in terms of, like, it helping the author and, like, giving them more visibility and stuff like that. Sometimes it might hurt us because, it's not adapted properly, but it does help them in the long run. So, we can't fault that. We really can't. But the whole thing, I will say, when it comes to book to TV and movie adaptations, I completely understand where the production companies are coming from, or even where the publishers are coming from, when they obviously, like, option these books out. Like, it's great for success. It's a great money maker. And even for fans, it's great for us to see, like, our favorite characters come to life and our favorite stories, like, really just jump off the page. It's an amazing thing to see. But it's also very, very scary, because what will we be seeing? Like, what are we getting? Are we actually getting what we wanted when we wanted a faithful adaptation of, like, a story that meant so much to us? Whether that story, brought us happiness, or really we felt seen by that story. And so, yeah, adaptations is a dangerous space. And I'm not saying that we should stop making adaptations or stop supporting them. Heck no. Like, adaptations can be, like I said, a wonderful thing. But I think they need to be more concerned about remaining faithful. I know people are just like, some things don't translate well. And I'm just like, yeah, some things don't translate well, but the entire book not translating well, then you shouldn't have picked that book to be adapted. Like, pick something else that fits your narrative or fits what you want to be adapted. But if we're changing everything, then we're not really adapting the story that we saw in the book, isn't it? Because I know a lot of adaptations end up changing endings, because sometimes even the author is just like, I wish I hadn't written that ending. I wish I had made it differently. And in those cases, I can understand, like, one little tweak like that to give us a better story or wrap a story up better, I can understand. But when you're changing everything for the sake of nothing, then I can't ride with it at all. So I'm hoping that for these stories, we get faithful adaptations that are executed well. And because, like, these are fantasy books, I say executed well in the sense of visuals. Yeah, visuals. Casting, obviously, the script itself. I'm just like, there are some iconic lines that I would love to see delivered. So everything, I hope, goes really well for these adaptations. Otherwise, I will be back here and I will be going off. Y'all hear me when I go off on a rant. I'm not afraid to do it again. And believe me, I will. If I see the need to do it, I'm gonna be right back here. In the same way Kendrick was moving mad, I'm about to really go off. And it is what it is. But that is it for today, guys. Tell me what you think about book to TV and movie adaptations. Tell me how you feel. Tell me some of your favorite, book to TV and movie adaptations. Like, how have they been for you? And tell me a book that you are hoping maybe one day gets adapted. Because I know I have quite a few that I'm just like hoping and praying that one day someone like sees them for the amazingness that they are and adapts them. Yeah, I have quite a few because, as you guys can see, I've read quite a few books, and if anything, I think so many of them, like at least half, deserve to be adapted. But yeah, a girl can only dream. Like, that's doing a bit too much. But yeah, a girl can dream, can't she? So that is it for today, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Once again, welcome to all of our new subscribers. Thank you guys so much for supporting me. And thank you guys for supporting me when I was on my rest week. Whenever something like that happens, I will definitely make sure, to have polls or commentary, in text form up, just to keep you guys engaged, because, I love talking to y'all and hearing all of your opinions. So don't forget to leave me a comment and let me know what you think. And I will see you next time. Bye, guys.